Stevens County is a bigger place than I expected. I was on my way to Montana when I finally gave in and decided I was lost. Along the highway was a quaint little mom-and-pop gas station. Perfect, I said out loud to no one. I pulled in, filled up the car, and headed in to pay. The door made an audible ding as I opened it and stepped inside. I felt like I'd traveled back in time to the mid-50s. Everything was dated, even the music. I grabbed a Coke from the cooler next to the counter and sat it down in front of the quiet old man behind it. I noticed the small, modest rack of maps to my right and began to thumb through them. "Will that be all?" asked the weathered old man. "Actually," I began just before noticing that behind the kindly old gentleman there was a well-worn, beaten-up old road atlas. "I think I'll take that atlas as well." The gentleman looked behind him, pausing for a good long while. Sir?" I said. "You don't want that old thing. I can get you a newer one from the back," he said as he started to scoot from behind the counter. "Oh no, really, that's all right. I'll just take that one." The old man looked at me, a hint of concern or maybe sadness filling his eyes. He nodded without saying anything and added the atlas to the total. I paid and headed back to my car. The first thing I did was pull out the old atlas, and sure enough, I was lost, going in the complete opposite direction I should have been. After pulling out, I righted my direction and headed back on my way. The atlas veered me in the appropriate direction, but after some time, I couldn't help but notice that the scenery, however beautiful, had not changed. I wasn't too worried, as my gas gauge hadn't dropped even a splinter yet. Nighttime seemed to fall quickly on this stretch of road. Trees on both sides blocked any real fashion of a view, save for the one in front of me, which simply consisted of road. Miles and miles of road. It seemed to have no end. And the night dragged on and on. I was tired, but I wanted to get to my destination as soon as I possibly could. I stopped along the side of the road to check the atlas again. The road indicated was indeed the road I was on, with one difference. I had been driving this stretch of road for hours, and the map showed that the road was maybe 6 miles through this forest. 6 miles? How is that possible? I looked up at the road, utterly confused. The gas gauge still read full, and the road kept going. Before I started back on my way, I took a moment to breathe. Along the opposite side, among the trees, I could have sworn I saw movement in the shadows, like someone peeking and retreating before they were caught. And the more I paid attention, the more of these curious figures I saw. They were thin and bony, lanky and gray. Long fingers poked out from the sagging flesh of their hands, and their eyes were hollow pits. And they just stared and retreated as soon as I saw them. And all I could think in that moment was that I must have been more tired than I thought. It wasn't until something crashed through my passenger side door that I realized that what I had seen was very real. A small, slimy, gray figure had jumped through the glass and halfway into my car. I slammed on the gas in a panic, trying to let momentum do its job as the thing screamed and clawed at me. It was about the size of a child, with eyes the size of teacups, and a lipless mouth that opened wide, bearing sharp, pointed teeth and a black tongue. I pulled hard to the left, and at last the creature lost its balance, rolled out onto the road behind me as I sped off. What the hell was that? I thought as I drove on, peering behind me every couple of seconds just to reassure myself that the thing wasn't following. The faces grew bolder now, peering out from the trees, all of them just like the creature that had burst through my window. I had to get out of this place, whatever it was. Was I dreaming? Had I fallen asleep? I simply couldn't tell. But that last bit had sure as shit scared the holy hell out of me. So I didn't think I was sleeping. Lost in my thoughts, I nearly lost control of the car when a giant insect bigger than any I had ever seen before landed with a mammoth splat against my windshield. I turned on the wipers with a generous spray of cleaning fluid and hoped it would get rid of the mess. But then another, and another, until in rapid succession my windshield was pelted again and again with these enormous insects. It was hard to tell through the noise, but I could have sworn I heard a hissing laughter from the woods. I had to stop. I couldn't see. I would have to brave the outdoors and clean the windshield manually now that the pelting had stopped. The glass was thick and sticky with the remnants of these giant insects. Long strings of slime followed my hands as I wiped the glass clean. And then a huge clap of thunder sounded from above, followed by a torrential rain. All I could do was slam my fists on the hood and shout, "Perfect!" I got back in my car and let the rain clean what was left on the windshield. I sat there a moment, irritated, scared, and entirely too inconvenienced. I sat disgruntled, waiting for the rain to stop. It took ages, but once it had, I kept driving. As dawn broke, I finally found an exit and took it faster than I should have. I heaved a sigh of relief, grateful to be out of that place. Stevens County is a bigger place than I expected. I was on my way to Montana when I finally gave in and decided I was lost. Along the highway was a quaint little mom-and-pop gas station. "Perfect," I said out loud to no one. I pulled in, filled up the car, and headed in to pay.